Aaron, what
Let's
up?
go. How you doing, brother?
What's up, guys? How you doing?
We are good, man. Just out here, trench warfare, as they say.
Trying to straddle all the lines in crypto.
Yes.
Yeah, many lines to straddle.
Yes. Yeah, I don't have good balance either, man. So too tall. All right, so I wanted to check in with you on two things. The main one is sort of this incredible thread that you wrote that I think contextualized the impact of the growing stablecoin supply. But before we go do that, I think Josh and I have kind of been having some hot takes around OpenSea and around NFTs, and I guess
All right.
have this sort of doubt that there's a big enough business around an NFT marketplace for OpenSea to really just make that their entire focus, and so their push into being a broader trading venue seems necessary. But my sense is you are a bit more bullish on NFTs than I am, so I wonder if you can make the bull case.
Yeah, I mean, I think we've seen this in just crypto forever, right? The moment you feel like a big category is dead or nothing's going on, it kind of bounces back with a fury. And I think what we're seeing with OpenSea, at least this is my read, is that OpenSea is moving into kind of like broader channels of tokens, not just NFTs. And I think what we're going to see from centralized exchanges and then decentralized exchanges and some of the more, existing infrastructure, they're going to pull back into NFTs too, right? Like let's not forget, right? Coinbase tried to set up like an NFT marketplace, didn't go as well as they were hoping. But
Also, they didn't try very hard, I don't think.
Yeah, right. But they were there, Kraken had an NFT related bit, Uniswap was looking at NFTs, right? So my sense is when we zoom out, 5-10 years, a lot of these platforms are going to look pretty similar, where they're going to be places where you can buy, sell, and trade all tokens, whether that's an ERC20 token, whether that's an NFT, or possibly something else. And I think OpenSea, has lots of aspects of what they do that are pretty cool, right? Like in many ways, it's like a better Etherscan, like under the hood, where you can kind of track and look at things, and that's kind of the core engine. And I think having the ability to do other forms of token swaps, are going to be a big piece of that too, right? I'm sure you guys have spoken about TokenWorks quite a bit, but you're seeing kind of like NFT DeFi or like NFT composability, beginning to emerge. So I just say, like, hold your breath. I have a feeling that we will be talking about NFTs some more. I don't know if you guys did you guys catch this in the A16Z State of Crypto? Just the total number of people that had NFTs.
No.
It's actually gone up. It's gone up. Yeah. So
Okay.
the dollar volume has gone down a bit, but the number of people that hold the asset has gone up. So I still think it's like a snowball rolling down a hill.
I mean, I think that's kind of the narrative. That's kind of the narrative we hear from people who have been continued, like, stayed in the NFT space. Is it's actually never gone away. It's just, it's not top of mind. Obviously, tokens and meme coins and these more speculative games suck up a lot of the attention, but the core community is still there. People are still collecting. There's new projects coming out. Like, it's alive and well. If you look,
are you guys still as active at Flamingo DAO as you have been before, or what's the vibe?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's really like the supply side from creators. But if there's great work that's being created, then Flamingo and the other DAOs are picking that up. I think there's still a number of creators that are really focused on NFTs as part of their practice. I'm sure you guys talked about the coin drop that happened. I think that was last week, or
we had Eric on, yeah.
Before. Yeah, I mean, that was a big drop, right? Like $15 million. That's like eye-watering numbers in the art and creative world. So I still think it's there. I think, I think, like all things when it comes to consumer, a little bit more regulatory clarity, a little bit more users on the consumer side, and you'll start to kind of see a lot of these business models and ideas continue to kind of flourish. So
yeah, I mean, I like chatting with you because I think I have been around long enough to sort of rely on my ability to zoom out a little bit and just know where things were, and you've got years on me in that pursuit. So the old heads here, my friend. The old heads.
Yeah, or as my son calls me, just the unks. So
that's what I said. The unks. I'm leaning into unk status. It feels good. It feels like a nice space for me to live in. I don't, I don't need to be up to date. I mean, I just have to follow Pre's Telegram chat if I want to feel like I'm connecting with the youngins in any way. She does a good job. Okay, anyways, I think so you shared a thread that was sort of my main reason for reaching out, which again is sort of about this sort of zooming out a little bit. I think in it you were sort of commenting on the fact that stablecoins had just crossed $200 billion, that sort of total market cap, I guess, on chain. I think that was done at the beginning of this month, and since then another $100+ billion has been added into the total stablecoin supply. Why is this such a big deal?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a big deal because one, it aligns incentives with, traditional channels. I think a lot of crypto, to me, like crypto is like a new media channel almost. Like that's the way I think about it, in many ways, right? We saw like radio, then TV, then cable, then we saw like internet related distribution. And each time the internet gets more involved, the distribution gets wider, things just get bigger. The scale becomes kind of almost insane to comprehend. That's what's happening as we kind of digitize dollars, right? They're moving from, let's say, like radio, which is like legacy finance, into like the YouTube era of dollars, and that means that they're going to get distributed far and wide. They're not going to have to route through traditional intermediaries like i.e. banks, and that's great, right? Like that gives us a lot of flexibility to build robust applications and services that use it. But I just think it has deeper second and third order effects, and that's what I was trying to kind of starting to kind of get at. And for me, it's it gives a lot of folks just increasing ability to exit out of that existing system. We saw with cable, right? People like cut the cord, right? That was like a big trend like 10 years ago. I don't know how many folks here even have like cable at their house, or even probably even watch like Netflix, right? At this point, like the speed with which kind of the place where we consume media has really changed. I think it's going to be the same thing for money, and the growth of stable coins is really kind of indicating that. And it really is. I think Tom Lee did a good job kind of distilling this down. It really is kind of like ETH's like iPhone moment, right? Like this is like the product market fit that we've been all kind of waiting for. Just took a little bit of time to kind of manifest. So yeah, that's what I was kind of getting at.
Can you maybe say more on crypto being a new media distribution channel?
It's the same thing, right? Like, if you have a crypto wallet, you can really connect to not to lean on this just because it's fresh in my mind, but there's something like almost 1 billion people that own a digital asset, and about 50 to 75 million people that are doing stuff on chain. And those numbers are probably aren't perfect, but you have a tokenized dollar, you can interact with all these other folks, right? You have a wallet, you can now participate in a much bigger, broader open ecosystem. And to me, that's a little bit like YouTube, right? Like you publish something on YouTube and you can get distribution to the hundreds of millions, if not billions of people, which is pretty wild. And so I think that all happens without it routing through a number of intermediaries, right? If you're on YouTube, obviously you're going through one intermediary, YouTube, or Google, but it's still like a much broader platform to kind of distribute things. So I think when you start flipping that around, and I know you guys have thought about like internet capital markets, but I'm sure in 10 years we're going to see things that look like ICOs where billions of people are putting in a couple bucks into it to fund something absolutely wild. And I think you see that, Jess, just based on the stuff I see you write about. I don't know, Josh, if you agree with that too, but that's when I think we kind of get these like second, third order effects that people haven't really absorbed yet into the system. So everybody that has a stable coin is setting up a wallet, like they're all going like on chain in some way. That's going to grow over time, and that's going to just lay down the foundation for a lot of other really cool and interesting things.
Yeah, I think this frame you said, when individuals can custody and transfer value globally without permission, the nature of sovereignty itself changes. Not governments versus crypto, but individuals versus institutions. The power gradient has just shifted. This is 1995 internet energy. The protocols are live. The skeptics are coming around. The old system is coming on board. Why? Because you can't compete with open. Never could. I mean, there's your presidential speech right there, Aaron.
The state of the crypto one. Yeah,
It's
I mean,
the podcast
I think
bros that are going to get you, and it's going to be crypto,
But it's true, right? I mean, and I'm old enough to kind of remember. I mean, I was pretty young at the time, but I remember when the internet was taking off. But it's true, right? And like people left it for dead. There was tons of skeptics, which I think people forget about. People thought after the .com crash that we would have no more internet. It was completely overbuilt. It was like a ton of BS that was being slung by the quote unquote tech bros at the time. And that all turned out not to be true, right? It kind of ground through with email addresses, with really basic use cases, and then that led up to like the internet that we know today. And we can criticize that like crazy, but it's obviously has a huge impact and changed pretty much everything around it.
I keep referencing a great PDF that's on the internet. It's called The Long Nose of Innovation. It ultimately just talks about how long it takes for these things to come to life, and how hard it is for people to grok that, because usually we just see the very last mile, like once it's actually breaking free from the early innovators. So I think 1995 energy, I was old enough to be around there. A very defining moment in my life was seeing dial-up internet move into social media, move into the crypto world we live in. I would love for you to make the case of why stablecoins are specifically bullish for Ethereum. It's not super clear to me that is 100% true.
Yeah, I mean, that's because you're in the trenches, right? But when you kind of take a step out, the thing that Ethereum has is a network effect, and it has incredible neutrality. And when you start thinking about putting not just small amounts of dollars, like which can be a lot for an individual, 5, 10K, like that's a lot, right, for anybody. But when you start moving into like hundreds of millions, billions, trillions of dollars, like these types of subtle design decisions that both Bitcoin and frankly ETH have made are just going to matter more and more. So, if you have a project that's a little bit more centrally maintained, that may increase its speed, its ability to catch up, but it's not necessarily going to have the trust and security that Ethereum kind of provides. And I think network effects are super sticky. They don't go away because of AI. They don't go away because crypto scales. And I do think at the end of the day, you're just going to see Bitcoin and ETH kind of consolidate their market positions. Like to me, Bitcoin's maybe Microsoft and ETH's kind of Apple. And they're just going to kind of flip back and forth over the next 30 years, just in terms of importance at different moments in time. So,
well, I think that was one of the most interesting replies to your thread was from Sriram, who was kind of pushing back on, like, agreed with everything, but pushing back on the idea that people would exit to like US denominated stablecoins, and they would actually exit to ETH because of like countries aren't going to want their their citizens to go exit to the US dollar and the kind of growing power that the US would have. And I think what gets us excited is like, okay, if they're exiting to ETH, maybe they would exit to some weird, meme coins or some, branded,
I think there's sort of this expansion, right? Like I think things that I very much agree with. I think like the law of the category, right? Like that is, there's the top one captures a vast majority of any attention. Then there's the second one, and then there's all the rest. I think we see that across like all consumer brands, and I think that's mostly a limitation or a dynamic of human beings and how we categorize the world. And so I think that's like probably the core of my deep down ETH bull case is like I think you're right. Network effects don't shift too easily. I do think what's interesting is though, as these entire markets grow and expand, the niches become really big as well. And so I think, it's maybe not just thinking about it in the terms of L1s, but thinking about it as like which other tokens might become money. And they don't have to become money in the scale of global settlement, but they can still become very big in their own right. And I think that is kind of the experiment that we're seeing run with Zora right now.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think that is going to be the case, but I think you'll see kind of a long tail. That long tail can be super valuable. Let's look at search as a category, right? Like DuckDuckGo is an incredibly valuable company, has a very small percentage of a very, very large market, and they do great work, right? And so I think you're going to still see that in crypto. That could be great for venture opportunities. That could be great for individual profitability if people are managing positions. But I do think in the long run, you're just going to see network effects kind of compound across the space. I mean, you kind of see that with Bitcoin, right? Its dominance has hovered roughly at like 50+% for quite some time. It's super sticky. And I think it's going to be the same thing with ETH. So when people got kind of bearish with ETH, was that like 2, 3, 4 quarters ago? I think that's kind of the big picture that they missed. In terms of like the points that you were kind of raising, Josh, I thought that was super interesting. Would you mind just like re-summarizing that? Because I actually had a response, but it just skipped my mind. But
yeah, I think just think about we live in this attention economy. Okay, go ahead if you got it.
Yeah. So Sri Ram's response, I think it's right. So I was talking about exit for other countries into a better system. The U.S. system right now, whether we like it or not, the dollar is king. And I think there's a lot of folks that benefit from exiting out of their local situation, right? So people have famously noted, with Bitcoin and other assets about Argentina, right? So if you're in Argentina right now, you have a tremendous amount of inflation. You have no real choice, right? But you can now easily exit out to dollars. And that I think is good for the fine folks of Argentina that want to kind of manage that risk. Does that mean that in the long run, we'll always have dollar dominance? I'm not 100% sure of that. I do think in the long run, we'll see some crazier stuff that the crypto community produces where there may not be a dollar, but instead it's really like this weird unit of account that sits on like a basket of commodities that are perfectly preferenced to you. Like, I think that's kind of like what the theoretical economist would want, and probably is like the end state. But I don't know if that's when we're like 30 years down the line, right? Like that's going to be a slow moving train.
Yeah, we're no longer unks at that point. We're whatever comes next.
I'm probably in the grave. Yeah,
we got to leave it here so we could get some other guests here. But I do think, if anybody does have a chance to go corner Aaron in a room at some point and just ask some more esoteric questions, it is very, very well worth your time. I think so many of the bigger expanding my mind moments have come from just a random chat with you and somebody else at a conference somewhere. So, and this is going back to, I think ETH Berlin, my man, back in the day when we're talking about,
that's a great conference. That was an epic conference.
Meaningful conference, my mind. Aaron, appreciate you jumping on here, man. We'll probably try to pull you back in again because I always love chatting with you. Best of luck.
All right. Peace. Guys.
Cheers.